o'clock. You're ready to go.
Okay. I'd like to call this meeting to order on Wednesday, December 16th, 2020, the Sugarland 4B Corporation. Do we have anyone, well here, like citizens who desire to address the City Council, Board and/or Commission with regard to matters on the agenda will be read and/or received at this time? Do we have anyone?
No, ma'am, we do not.
Okay, so I will close this item for public comment and move to the next item, which are the minutes. Consideration of and action on the minutes of November 18th, 2020 meeting. Are there any additional corrections to the minutes? All right, I'd like to entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Carol McCutcheon, Director. First, is there a second?
Second.
Second from Director Kamali. All right, let's take a vote. Director Gasani?
Yeah.
Director Porter?
Aye.
And I'll go back and say Director McCutcheon
Aye.
and Director Kamali.
Aye.
Okay, and I approve too. The motion carries unanimously. Let's move to the next item, which is the budget. Consideration of an action on the fiscal year 2021 budget amendment in the amount of $3,580,184 from fiscal year 2020 carryover funding. Jennifer Brown, Director of Finance, presenting.
Thank you. Good afternoon. This afternoon, I'm here to review with you the preliminary results from the fiscal year 20 operations. Just keep in mind that the auditors, excuse me, my voice is going already. The auditors are currently on site or actively reviewing the records from fiscal year 20. And so these numbers may change slightly if there are any adjustments, but they are pretty firm as how we have ended the year. And so we're comfortable bringing those forward to you at this point. So we did end fiscal year 20 with revenues of $33,836,726, which is around $250,000 more than we had anticipated in our amended budget. And if you'll recall, we did reduce our revenue estimates due to COVID. We had some pretty conservative estimates due to the impact of COVID, and we did end up coming in better than we had anticipated. And so that is the main reason where the revenue increase is coming from. On the expenditure side, we have total realized expenditures of $32,858,749. And that is a savings of $3,220,000. I'm not going to run through the detail, but you can see it there on the slide. That does include the refunding bonds that were issued early in the year. If you'll recall, that was like last October. Feels like forever ago, but that does, both of those revenues and expenditures do include the bond proceeds and the payment to the escrow agent for reflecting the refunding savings. So we do have, we had set aside originally $3.8 million in reserve for opportunities funding. We did reduce that as part of the projections to offset the decrease in revenue. So we've reduced that by around $800,000. And then we allocated a portion of that to the Mayfield Park restroom ahead of ending the fiscal year. And so there was $2,946,000 remaining that did not get allocated. The other savings came from the incentives program as well as transfers to other funds, and that's where the corporation is supporting a portion of the operational staff expenses relative to the economic development program. So in total, we have an ending fund balance after the GASB adjustments for accrued sales tax and the debt service reserve of $6,414,506. That is 3.58 million or 3,580,184 greater than we had planned on ending the year. Next slide, please. Okay, so we have a pretty small number of operating carryovers. The largest amount of that is relative to the sweet cash program at 102,500. We also had some other items that were in progress at year end but not complete, and that includes the half of the land use plan consultant. There's a portion being funded of all three of these next items by both the SLDC and the SL4B. There's the conditions assessment for the Char House at Imperial and the website update for the economic development website. So all of that totals to $148,298. So those are the true carryover items where those were in progress but not complete at year end. The remaining funds that total $3,431,886. That is the remaining fund balance, how we ended the year compared to budget. And staff is recommending that we go ahead and carry that over and put that amount into the reserve for opportunities line item in fiscal year 21. And that will facilitate completion of the agreements that we will be having with the baseball club on transitioning the stadium to the AAA. Go ahead and move to the next slide, please. So what the fiscal year 21 budget will look like. So we're not changing the revenues. So we do have the adopted budget there in the first column. I've gone ahead and adjusted the reserve for opportunity funding. So here we show the original budget was 1.55 million. It actually was 1.7 million, but if you'll recall at your meeting last month, you reallocated or authorized the reallocation of 150,000 for the parklets and for the drive-in movies. So that has already been adjusted and is included in the operating expenditures line item up at the top. So just to not confuse that reallocation with the budget amendment that we're asking for this evening, we went ahead and showed that. And so the operating carryovers, the total will increase the 148,000. Will increase the operating budget to 872,000. That does include the drive-in movies and the parklets program funding that you approved at your last meeting. And then the remaining funds would go into the reserve for opportunities account. It'll give us just under $5 million available to be able to execute the agreements and make any payments that are due in fiscal year 21. Which under the agreement, I believe the first payment would be due mid-January, if I remember correctly. And so we would need to come back to you to authorize that. But today we're only talking about the appropriation of funds. And so what that will do then is your total budget for fiscal year 21, the authorized expenditures would be $10,444,112. And the increase from that compared to the adopted budget is the amount of the carryovers that we're asking for this evening. Next slide, please. So this slide will then show what basically your bottom line remains the same. And so we have our initial variance to budget. This is net of revenues as well. And also accounts for the adjustment to the sales tax. We actually had a decrease in the amount of sales tax that we accrued because that is based on the actuals that we received in October and November. So you can see the variance there for the sales tax on the second to last line was 105,000. That's just accounting entries. It all gets netted out in the available fund balance. And so the bottom line actually ends up being the same. where we have a budgeted ending balance for fiscal year 21 of $2,428,401, and we will still have that budgeted ending fund balance after this budget amendment, because we're just asking to reappropriate all the excess funding that we had available from fiscal year 20 into fiscal year 21. And next slide, please. So the corporation's bylaws require that the city council approves any budget action or budget amendment. So our plan is to bring this forward to the city council on January 5th for approval. And then the amended budget would be effective as of that date. So you will not see the impacts of the budget amendment until we show you the results of the second quarter, which will be the January to March period for the financials, or actually in the city's financials, you'll start seeing them in January. So our plan to do that would be to have the city council approve that, and then any action that would be necessary for funding resolutions would come back to you at your next meeting to be able to utilize some of that reserve for opportunity funding. So this afternoon, all we're asking for is the approval of the budget amendment for the carryovers. And next slide, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have on that.
Yes.
Director McCutcheon?
Yes. Thank you. Anyway, Jennifer, on the $37,500 carryover for the land use plan consultant, is that dealing with the hotel conference center study that we didn't do and move forward, or what is that for?
No, that was an item that was budgeted in fiscal year 20. It was is planned to be split between the two corporations. I will let somebody from economic development or Jennifer speak to that because they know a lot about it than I do.
Sure, I'll take it. So that is a study in partnership with planning of looking at, if you'll remember, the land use plan envisioned more mixed use areas and the neighborhood activity center, regional activity centers, and some redevelopment. So that's a partnership of looking at how we could move forward in implementing some of those new concepts, and so that we can have a good plan for how to outreach to landlords and others who might be able to re-envision their plan or their site under the new plan in ways that they couldn't have without it. And so it's really just about how to move forward with implementing some of the more economic development related land use ideas out of the land use plan.
Okay, so you said that split 50-50 with SLDC then? Okay, good. I couldn't remember what it was. And then the second question, is this the fiscal year where we reimbursed PCD or Town Square Management for $750,000 for the $1.5 million that they spent on the plaza?
That is included as part of the incentives that was paid in fiscal year 20.
Okay, great. Okay, thank you.
It's already been completed.
Okay, great.
Are there other questions? All right, I'd like to.
I've got a question.
Oh, go ahead, Director Kermali.
Jennifer, if you can pull your presentation back up, if you don't mind.
I'll have to ask City Secretary to do that. Which slide?
I think slide 1 had the $3.4 million 20 versus 21 that's going to get rolled into 21.
Yeah.
Just the 3.4 is coming from where again? Can you repeat that?
It is the difference. So we have the $3,580,000 that you see here in the bottom right-hand total column.
Yep.
That is what we have available from fiscal year 20. So the 3.4 million is literally that amount less the 148,000 that we have identified for specific carryovers. Until we're just recommending to carry over the difference.
Got it. So that's what confused me. I saw 3.5 here and 3.4 on the other. So I'm good.
If we go to the next slide, you can kind of see how that recommended carryover.
You showed it, but I think I fell asleep during that one. But I see it now. We're good.
No problem.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions?
Oh, yeah.
Director McCutcheon?
Oh, yeah, just a follow up. So on the incentives, it's 787,500. So I guess 750 was for the plaza, and then we had another 37,500. So there's a 37,500. That's not the 37,500 for the consultant. That's something different. Or
That has to do with the First Colony Mall Lifestyle Center revamp.
Yeah,
So it's related to that. So yes.
Oh, perfect. Right.
The other consultant is part of the operating budget.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Any other questions?
Move to approve.
Yep.
Second.
Director Porter approve, Kamali second. Let's take a vote. Director McCutcheon?
Aye.
Director Gasani?
Aye.
Director Porter?
Aye.
Director Kamali?
Aye.
Director Atkinson?
Aye.
And Director Saunders?
Aye.
And I approve. The motion carried unanimously. Let's move to the next item, which is the annual report. Review of and discussion on the fiscal year 2020 annual report. Elizabeth Huff, Director of Economic Development, presenting.
Good afternoon. If you can give us the ability to share John's screen. Perfect. All right. Next slide, please. So we just went over the financials, so I am going to skip that part. If you want to go to the next slide. Oh, is this the whole? Okay. Sorry. So the COVID-19 pandemic affected our businesses, and we surveyed them and found out that their top concern, as we've discussed with y'all before, was revenue and cash flow. Other top responses is reopening with proper precautions, financial assistance, and advertising support. 92% of the businesses did see a decrease in revenue, and half of these businesses saw a revenue decrease of at least 60%, and 69% of these businesses applied for additional SBA funding. If you can look at the slide, the decrease in our employment this year has been due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Next slide. Our response as a department was critical to supporting our business and the community during these trying times. We implemented a business response plan, which involved many communication with the business community, data gathering, and the All In for SLTX business campaign. We upgraded our communication to a branded newsletter and grew the distribution list from 100 to over 1,000. The department also hosted an economic outlook on Sugarland with GHP's chief economist, Patrick Jankowski, with over 65 attendees. The extensive research, as I mentioned, included surveying our business community and outreach that revealed that many businesses did not want a handout. They wanted to do what they do best, which is serve their customers and sell their goods. And so with that, the hashtag All In for SLTX campaign and Sweet Cash began. Next slide. The Sweet Cash program was implemented as a part of the All In for SLTX business recovery effort and to inject needed cash flow into the small local business that have been impacted by COVID. The Sweet Cash program injected over $160,000 into our local economy and directly benefited 140 businesses. In October 2020, the Texas Economic Development Council recognized Sugarland's Sweet Cash program with the 2020 Community Economic Development Award for Exemplary Achievement and Innovativeness. And yesterday, we concluded the holiday-themed 'Tis the Season Sweet Cash program, committing our remaining gift card inventory, which we are very, very excited and proud about. We'll have more to share on the impacts of this program and next steps, but it's important to note that we did exceed our goal of 200,000 economic impact as a part of the program. Next slide. The Office of Economic Development coordinated constantly with the business community to help find PPE, childcare resources, and best practices for conducting business. We have noted some of these stories with Helix and Pink Zebra in the report on page 15. Next slide, please. We also joined the city in celebrating the Healthcare Heroes Week, and many Sweet Cash gift cards were given to hospital frontline workers to support and recognize their hard work during the pandemic response. Next slide. Next slide. So Also, this past year, the city incentivized a project from Transwestern Development Corporation with a total capital investment of $20.8 million. The development is underway on a 2-building warehouse distribution center totaling 326,000 square feet and some change inside of the Sugarland Business Park. Accredo's packaging phase 3 expansion was also completed in FY20, which added 200,000 square feet of manufacturing and warehouse space. So these are some great pictures to kind of show these recent announcements. Next slide. Other notable project, we continued our recruitment efforts by attending events before the COVID-19 pandemic, which included the Site Selectors Guild Fall Forum, some outbound missions with Texas One and the Greater Houston Partnership, as well as the Economics Site Selector Conference. This page features our commercial property inventory at the end of FY20. Our industrial sector continues to perform well. Our office vacancy continues to slowly increase, and we do not expect to see COVID impacts to office and retail until the second and third quarters of FY21. Next slide. And we also wanted to highlight some other notable projects that the staff worked really hard on. One of them, the first one would be the Amazon's last mile delivery station, which is building totaling almost 300,000 square feet. The Tacticam is a local employer that had left Sugarland and now came back and reopened their building and have moved 30 employees into a 25,000 square foot facility at 120 Industrial Boulevard. Staff worked with the Fort Bend County to ensure the ditches around the area were cleaned and continuing to deliver business retention services to this business. And then finally, staff is maintaining communication with Sistel USA to monitor the progress of its 20,000 square foot manufacturing and office space expansion in the business park after we assisted with the abandonment of unneeded roadway to pave their way for their expansion. Next slide. In FY20, the city had 4 active tax abatement agreements and proceeded with terminating 1 agreement that had not met performance measurements, Helix. The active tax abatement agreements continue to exceed the minimum required value and have resulted in over $18 million in inventory values that are not subject to the tax abatement exemptions. Staff also entered into 1 tax abatement agreement that was mentioned earlier and will become active in FY 2022, which is the speculative industrial development by Transwestern. Next slide. We're also in the process of updating the 2011-2016 strategic plan. We are moving forward with an RFP for workforce and targeted industry analysis. It was delayed this past fiscal year due to the pandemic, but is expected to occur in FY 2021 along with additional business attraction, expansion, and retention efforts. Next slide. A budget of approximately $7.13 million was approved for FY21 economic development activities. Our current priorities include the redevelopment, interim activations, and long-term planning of multiple sites within the community, implementation of an economic development integrated marketing program, which we've discussed through DCI's contract, expansion of public art program into creative and non-traditional formats, continued enhanced small business engagement, and expand departmental innovativeness by refining and creating policies to increase effectiveness. Next slide. And that's it. So there's obviously a lot more information in there, but wanted to highlight a few key pages, and I'll answer any questions if you have any.
Director McCutcheon?
Thank you. So the all-in for SLTX program you said ended yesterday then?
The Sweet Cash program,
Yes,
we have given away, we received enough submissions to give away the last of our inventory of our gift cards that we purchased.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. I had about $800 of receipts I kept on forgetting to send in, so I'll not bother to send them in.
Elizabeth, my wife, is very upset because she tried to submit $100 yesterday again, and she got a little rejection notice. And I'm like, I don't know. She said, well, you're my city council member. You should know what's going on. I'm like, I don't know.
Well,
So
if you notice, the text very specifically said to stay tuned for more information. And so we are already working really hard on the phase 2 of that program. And obviously there are still businesses that are reaching out that are interested and could use our help. So we're working very quickly to try to implement phase 2, as you saw in our carryover request.
Yeah.
Stay tuned. Don't throw away those receipts.
Don't throw away this. Okay.
I've got a picture of it.
Okay.
And also, I don't know if you noticed, but Finish Line Sports, who's part of the program, is closing December 30th.
Yes, we're aware.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, that's a shame.
And it
Director
is.
Porter.
They've been in business for 35 years there in Sugar Creek, but they had COVID sort of put the nail. I already had the online stuff, and then COVID sort of, put the nail in the coffin on them.
It sounds like they're still going to do some consulting, though. They're just shutting down their
Right.
space.
Consulting
They're
stuff.
sustaining their races, which brings in some of the vendorship to our city as well. So it's just the retail component.
Yeah,
We're excited to support them in the other activation.
that's
Okay.
good. Director Porter.
I would just like to say how impressed I am that with our economic development staff. Congratulations on that recent win. You guys did an amazing job coming into this thing, checking with other people. You don't have a not invented here, but when you pick up a best practice, you try to make it better. So kudos to staff and the leadership here. Very, very impressive, and thank you very much.
Thank you. That really means a lot. And, the team that is on the call today, they and others that are not on the call have put in a lot of hours and have been very creative and done a lot of great work. And so I'm very proud of all that they've accomplished and really appreciate you saying that.
I'm
Yeah,
just
you
gonna
should be.
I'm gonna echo what Lee
Congratulations.
said, because
Thank
it's,
you.
I've gotten a lot of calls from the owners of some of these restaurants, like Fernando's and Ailings and the Baskin Robbins, and they were totally impressed with how quickly a governmental agency can turn around applications and approve them so quickly. And these are, verbatim type words that some of these owners that have become acquaintances of mine over the last year and a half, and very, very impressed. Very impressed.
That's so
We
great.
appreciate that.
Yeah.
But Sweet Cash wrap up to all of you soon, so there'll be more details to follow.
I've heard from the city
Sounds
manager.
Oh, great job and congratulations again.
Are there
Thank
any
you.
other questions? All right, we'll close this item and move on to the next item, which is the director's report. Elizabeth Huff, Director of Economic Development, presenting.
I just have one quick comment. The movie series, which is a part of the All In for SLTX campaign, is ongoing. We've had a great response. We've had some challenges with the weather out at the Crown Festival Park. And so you'll see, if you haven't already, that the messaging will be moving the series to Smart Financial Center's parking lot, which will give us obviously a paved area where we will not have to have the concerns of the rain and the mud. But hopefully you all are able to attend and continue to spread the word. We're really excited about it. And this weekend, we've got Friday, Saturday, Sunday, back-to-back shows. So spread the word, and please give us your feedback as well. We're hearing some great things about this and look forward to seeing what else we can do with it.
Great.
My feedback is the mayor keeps trying to give me credit for this, and you guys came up with it. All I had was one small comment, and so I've tried to correct him, but he's the mayor.
Team effort, sir. Everybody's great idea.
Yeah, so that's all I've really got. And
So nothing else further on the director's report, Elizabeth?
no, ma'am.
Okay.
Elizabeth.
So, go ahead. Go ahead.
Are ticket sales looking good? I know last Saturday ticket sales were good. Are ticket sales looking good for this upcoming weekend?
Yes, the numbers that I saw yesterday afternoon, ELF is by far almost already sold out. We're looking to see how we can accommodate more people. So definitely you can see which shows are favored right now, but they are quickly growing. So very, very excited about the response and continuing to find ways to spread the messaging and increase our marketing. So anything y'all can do to share or create your own posts with some of our images and stuff, we greatly appreciate your support there.
Yeah, and I think by it being at Smart Financial now, it's more visible of a location. People will probably see those big screens that I saw last weekend at the park. So I think there will be some curiosity.
Yeah.
So I think that'll lead to more sales as well.
Perfect.
All right. So we're going to close the director's report and move on and move into the executive session. So the closed executive session, I guess, Chapter 551, Texas Government Code, in accordance with Section 551087, deliberation regarding economic development negotiation. All right. So now I'd like to ask for, we're back in regular session. I would like to
Motion to adjourn.
anybody get good?
I'll second that.
All right, and we can close the meeting as of 5:07 p.m. Thank you, everyone.